Okay, inshallah. We'll give just a couple more minutes as people are wrapping up their salah. But please feel free to take a seat. And if you have other conversations, please take them outside of the musalla. Jazakumullah khair. Okay, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. All praise is due to Allah. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Jazakumullahu khairan for attending the program tonight on Islamic finance, on wealth and wills and wisdom. And the brothers have told me they're sharing their wisdom, and inshallah you can share your wealth and donate generously to the masjid, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair in return. This is a program, first of all, I would like to thank brothers Azfar and Muazzam. Muazzam's here. Azfar, you can raise your hand. At the beginning of the year, both of them were promising me they wanted to do some program on a couple of topics, but especially on Islamic finance, to really get people's finances in order. How are you doing your wills? How are you doing your investments? And to have that conversation as a community, which is very important. So this has been, alhamdulillah, I put a call out to the community that who would like to bring a program, to the masjid, and they were among the ones who answered that call, and many others did as well. And we have a program, we've had a program, mashallah, almost every Friday, until Ramadan now, alhamdulillah. So it's all filled up. So jazakumullah khairan to all those that stepped forward for that. And now we're going to start filling for after Ramadan. So let me know, inshallah. So with that said, I will give it away to Brother Muazzam to introduce tonight's program and how we can make the most of the information that we will learn and the schedule and all the details, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Shagaram. Assalamu alaikum. All right, so welcome to Wealth, Wills, and Wisdom. You hear me now? Are the sisters taking part in the program, or are they chatting on their own? All right, assalamu alaikum. So it's good to see a full house, mashallah. It looks like it's going to be a good topic. I wanted to start with a show of hands. How many people here have a retirement plan already? Okay, sisters, anyone have a retirement plan already? Okay, not a whole lot, all right. So for those of you who have the retirement plan, how many of you monitor it quarterly or monthly, right? And how many of you are surprised by when it goes down or up at times if you're not sure why it's going up? And so how many here have a will? All right, that's seems there's more people like that. I actually am signing mine next week, so finally I got it done. And I know we're encouraged to not sleep more than 2 nights without having a will. So inshallah, this program tonight, the information tonight will encourage us all to create our will and get assigned. Alhamdulillah. So. Seeing a lot of people here, mashallah, it seems like this is going to be a good topic for everyone, right? But before we jump in, I wanted to read out a disclaimer. I want to thank MAPS for creating this space. However, please note that all the content, the advice, and opinion are of the presenters. MAPS does not endorse this advice, and so it's up to you to take it and implement it your own way. However, if you do make some profit, please consider donating to MAPS. All right, they didn't tell me to say this. All right, so now let's jump in. So this evening we'll cover a comprehensive list of topics on wealth management. The program goes until 8:20, but we're open even beyond that to take some questions. But we mainly have 3 topics that we will be talking about. So first, we'll have Brother Asfar talk about wealth versus money. And by the way, the heavy lifting for this program was done by Brother Asfar, especially the program part, so Jazakallah khair, Brother Asfar. And this is also built on top of Brother Asfar's wealth program that he did a couple of months ago. So Brother Asfar will speak first, and then we will have Brother Irshad from Stearns Bank. Will be speaking on the ins and outs of Islamic banking, so we get to learn, how it's different from traditional banking versus Islamic banking. We will then have Ali Radha. He's the CEO of Sharia Portfolio, a company out of Florida. And so he will be speaking about halal investments, the various vehicles, and how Sharia compliant funds do versus regular funds. So I want to take a minute to thank the speakers, because some of them are from out of town. So Jazakallah khair for giving up your time and coming out to our community. And so one last thing before we start, since the topics are complex, let's hold our questions till the end. And so then we'll start taking questions. We want to get through all the content and then take the questions. All right, Jazakallah khair, Brother Asfar.
Assalamu alaikum. And Sheikh Adam is still here, or has he walked out? He just stepped out. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. So the most important thing to recognize here is that what we have is a blessing from Allah to us. And Allah guides us that what you've been provided with, you need to care for it, you need to spend it where it's appropriate, you need to preserve and grow it where it's appropriate, and you need to pass it on for good purposes as you move forward, right? So it is, in a lot of ways, we think about money and we think about it, it's worldly and all, but I think about it saying, if you're doing a good job with your money, it is an act of ibadah. It is an act of ibadah because Allah guides us that what you've been blessed with, you should spend it well, right? That includes giving it to charity, that includes spending it on your family for good purposes. So I'm going to start with that. My topic really is about wealth. And a lot of times when you think about financials, we think about money. So what is money, really? It's a contract, right? It's a flow of some contracts that you have, right? It's a means to an end. But what is the end? What we really want is wealth. Now, I'll give you my own example. So I've been here in the Bellevue area for a little over 30 years. I drive a car that's 25 years old. It has almost 300,000 miles. My 4 kids learned how to drive on that car. So you can imagine what that car looks like. Okay. So if you looked at that car and saw me driving in it, you'll have a certain impression about me. It certainly won't give an impression of wealth. I promise you that, by looking at it. But I will tell you that that car, to me, is an asset and is a symbol of my wealth. Because I don't consider wealth to be only about money or physical assets. That vehicle has a lot of memories in it for me. There are good things and bad things associated with it. But there's learning associated with it that our kids got by having that car. So to me, it's wealth. It's a symbol of wealth, and that's one of my most cherished worldly possessions. Okay, so now I think you might be getting an idea where I'm going with this, right? So what is wealth? It's the ability to fully experience life. right? And I'm giving you a quote from somebody who's not a Muslim, but it's a very, very appropriate quote for Muslims, right? We've been sent here to experience life and do good with it, right? And wealth helps us do that. Then there's another quote that says, affluence means influence. What is affluence? Affluence is when you have a lot of worldly wealth, right? I have a lot of money in my bank account. If I have a lot of money in my bank account, I can give it to people, and in some ways it drives influence, especially in today's political world, right? You would know that, right? Money talks, right? So then I'm going to argue that as Muslims, especially living in this country, it is important for us to have money. Why? Because we want influence. Why? Because with that influence, we can do good things, right? As opposed to some of the things that we see happening around us and around the world, right? So it is important. I've heard this comment made, and in fact, I have made that comment saying, I have enough money, I don't need any more. And now my reaction is, no, you want more. Why? Because if you have more money, more wealth, you will do more good with it. We're standing in this building. This building just didn't happen on its own, right? People put their wealth, their money forward, right, to make this happen. So it is important to have money flow in a way that it builds wealth in the definition that I described for myself. So now, getting a little bit more concrete and a little bit more tactical, what do you do? Right? And I'd say our goal is to save, spend from what we saved, and share, right? Obviously, you have to earn also, so that's implied. But once you have something to help it grow, you have to save it. As we have been commanded, you have to spend it, and part of spending of that is to share it, right? That's really our overarching goal. So how do you do that? Well, part of it is really living below your means, right? And this is different than what we see outside of this building, right? Typically, in this culture, in this environment, we tend to live beyond our means. Why? Because we can always get money, credit, right? But the right thing to do is to have the capability but still live below your means, because your lifestyle inflation happens faster than you can imagine. It's always easier to spend more than less. But constraints build character. And that's what our faith teaches us also. Invest for the long term. Why? And you're going to hear it later on in the day, the compounding effect, right? So if you invest for the long run and don't get dissuaded by short-term happenings, you will do better over the long run, right? Short-term issues pass quickly also, right? And it's difficult to project when they're going to come and when they're going to go. So if you have a long-term strategy, you will do well overall. Definitely avoid debts, and definitely avoid debts for wants, because they get you in trouble. There are times that it's not possible, especially in our environment and our culture, that not everybody has the benefit of going debt-free. But knowing when to do it and when not to do it is super, super important. So definitely don't do it for wants. It does limit your freedom in terms of what you can and cannot do. And it does add to your stress. Now, this last point is the most important point. Be planful. So Muazzam asked the question, how many of you guys have a retirement plan? Right? I'm going to ask the same question in a slightly different way. How many of you actually have a financial plan? Right? Because if you don't have a financial plan, getting to a retirement plan is super, super hard, I can tell you that. You might get lucky, but not always, right? So you got to have a financial plan. And then knowing that you have to have patience, again, something that our deen tells us, right? Our faith tells us to have patience. Patience in Allah, patience in ourselves, right? So when you do that, you know that stuff will happen to you, around you, and all. But you'll have confidence that you can weather it. Why? Because you had a plan, right? And you then control how you react to that stuff, not short term, but long term. All right, getting even more concrete. What do you plan for? You gotta have a short term plan, right? You gotta know that I have money for the needs that I have. It could be your vacations, it could be, God forbid, an accident, whatever have you. You need to have liquid funds available. How do you do that? Well, you do that by saving. Well, what do you do with that savings? You're going to hear about that later on today, right? There are ways that you can save. Now, our challenge is in this financial system, whenever we talk about savings, interest comes in, riba comes in, right? So you're going to hear today in terms of how you can avoid that, right? Then you need to have a long-term plan, right? The compounding effect, growth that you drive in your assets. Why do you need that? You need it for education, your own or your children's. You need it for your health care, right? We get sick at times, sometimes more, sometimes less, but you need that money to be able to fund your health care. Retirement, long-term care, right? There is, in fact, this is one of the most ignored area of planning, long-term care, because the cost of long-term care is just going out of control, and most people don't plan for that till it's too late, right? So planning for that is super important. Taxes, I don't know about you, but I have ignored them for the most of my life. Only it comes in when our government does something odd and you say, oh my God, I'm funding this, right? But if you think about how much money goes into taxes, and then look at people who have a lot of money, how much taxes they pay, and you think about saying, what am I doing wrong? Well, what we're not doing right is to actually have a plan that saves on taxes, and then that compounds also. So what are your strategies around tax preservation, right? Thinking about that for the long term. And then the hereafter, your legacy, right? How do you pass on your wealth? Not only money, but your assets, not only physical, but your values to your children. How do you create a legacy through your charitable donations that places like this can come about, so people like us can get together and talk about how we can live better as given how we were commanded to, how we are commanded to, so we can actually have the benefits of the hereafter. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to invite the next speaker to come talk about, next two speakers, come talk about some of the things that I introduced here. Before I do that, I want to share something that you all have told us. So we ran a survey on Islamic banking in November, and asked for your input in terms of what's important. So I'm going to share the results of that with you and see what you think. So I realize it's hard to read, so I'm gonna read it for you. So the charts that you're seeing shows three things. It shows the age range that responded. So the majority of the folks who responded were in the age group of 25 to 44, right? It's a young crowd, right? That means you have a lot of opportunity here in terms of creating wealth and preserving it and growing it, right? It also shows household income. 45% plus people have a household income of 200,000 plus. MashaAllah, this is an awesome crowd. You guys are like the prime candidates to actually build out the wealth that can do some serious good, right? Think about that, right? And the third chart at the bottom says, hey, what is it that you want the most? You want good Islamic checking and savings account. You want services like home loans and so on, right? So I'm going to summarize what showed up in the charts. Mashallah, this is a very affluent population, right? 45% are earning 200K plus, right? 65% are earning above 125K, right? So if you think about the income in the US, you are up there, right? You have a tremendous, tremendous opportunity to do good. 88% of you are extremely interested, right? It's like on a scale from 1 to 10, it was 10. In Islamic banking, 93% were very interested. On a scale of 1 to 10, 7 plus was 93%. 72% were extremely interested in checking savings that are riba-free and profit sharing. 46% were extremely interested in charitable contributions. 46% of you said on a scale from 1 to 10, you are 10 on having your profits go towards charities. That's fantastic, right? I mean, you are building your legacy by doing that. 49% were also extremely motivated by having a bank provide promotional capabilities, like some sort of incentives to do Islamic banking, and you're going to hear more about that. And then there is an opportunity to do more. So we're just getting started here. We are just getting started here. The key point here, if you look at where we are here in the US or in the West, and you look at the financial system, and you look at this group as an example, a sample of Muslims in America, you'll realize that the financial system in the US doesn't really cater to us, right? We have unmet needs that are not getting catered. And then you think about how much money exists in here, that tells you this is an awesome opportunity. If you're business-minded, oh my God, right? This is a gap that people haven't really figured out, right? So that's really the opportunity here. And with that, I'm going to invite Irshad Rashid. I'm going to skip over the verbatims to keep time. I'll share this afterwards and all. Irshad Rashid is the president of Stern Salam Bank. They launched a new program just yesterday called Profit Link that offers riba-free, profit-sharing savings and checking account to us. And we're very fortunate to have him fly in from out of town to come share what he thinks about Islamic banking and a little bit about Stern Salam Banking. Thank you very much. Welcome. I'm going to leave this verbatim up to you if you want to use it. But
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you very much for making this opportunity available for the community and for our, to address a very, very important point. What you have seen, what the survey shows you here, is literally resonating all across the country. The awareness and the need to have our own financial institutions has amplified as a key need in the community, especially after October 7th. So keep that in the mind, and as we go through this, you'll understand where we need to go as we build our institutions, where we need to build next. So with that, I will move forward. So first and foremost, what is Islamic finance? Islamic finance basically represents money management and the process of acquiring funds. It's a broad term that describes activities associated with banking, capital markets, money, and investments. Islamic finance encompasses money management, investment, business activity, process of acquiring funds in a paradigm and framework that aligns with dictates of Islamic law. So let's start by saying what's the difference between conventional and Islamic banking. In conventional bank, you have lending-based finances. In Islamic bank, it is based on trade. In conventional banking, you have interest, and in the Islamic bank, we have profit. In Islamic banking, in conventional banking, we have lender and borrower, and in Islamic banking, we have partners, landlords, tenants, buyers, and sellers. And finally, there is no Sharia guidelines in conventional side. Of course, that is true in the Islamic banking. Let's start with the concept of what is money in the conventional side versus Islamic side. So as Brother Mozam previously, Azhar, he mentioned, mentioned, it's a medium of exchange. That is true on the conventional side as well as on the Islamic financing side. Is it a commodity? This is a very, very key concept in Islamic finance. Is it a commodity? Commodity means, can you trade? Can you use that as a method to do transactions? In conventional finance, of course you can. You can buy, you can buy contracts. You can buy, use money as commodity. But in Islamic finance, you cannot. You can, of course, purchase goods and services on both sides, and you can make loan and interest-based payments in conventional side, but you cannot do that on Islamic finance. The key concept of Islamic finance is allocation of risk. In Islam, you cannot earn something without taking similar risk on any reward you get. So in Islamic finance, the predatory lending is not allowed. In Islamic finance, requiring payments without having associated with risk is not allowed. So it allows for building of wealth and allows for the risk to be promoted and circulated across. So the three main instruments of risk is risk sharing in all transactions, redistributive risk, meaning if I'm lending the money, I have to have the risk as much as you do. And of course, the risk of how you allocate your inheritance is been prescribed in Islamic finance, in Islam. So I'm going to skip a few more slides here about the benefits of Islamic finance, and I'm also skip the contractual terms that are used in Islamic finance, because I want to get to the meat of our presentation. Here are the three major types of Islamic contracts that you are familiar with. One is sale-based, which is either murabaha or ijara. The partnership, which is either musharaka and mudaraba, and then intermediation, which is wakala or jawala. So what I want to talk to you about the ijara concept that we use in Stone Salam banking. Here is the key question. Many of us are asked, can we have Islamic banking in United States? Does the US laws allow for Islamic banking? The answer is yes. The OCC, which is Office of Controllers and Currency, which actually regulates all the banks such as ours, have already allowed for Islamic finance to be conducted in this country all the way back in 1997 and 1999. While it has been there for a long time, it is also true that we have not worked to update and add more regulations. There are so many opportunities that as Muslims, we can bring Islamic finance to this into this community and in this country for the good of not just Muslims, for the good of the society. There are so many examples since we started the bank of how Islamic finance is good for the community as a whole, which I will talk about briefly as we move forward. I'm going to skip this slide, and here is an example of how you can use Islam.
has generally done better. And this is an objective. You can look it up in any Yahoo Finance or any screening tool that you have, and you will get the result to look along what I've shared. So not necessarily saying that you should be buying this or not, but this is just showcasing. When you remove the non-halal stocks, which is mostly banks and financial services, because of the riba problems that we have, you are left with something that tends to do better. So what I'm looking to get from you guys is that there will be a session tomorrow. I really would hope, especially our ladies, to participate just as much as our men, because this is very important. I'm going to do a deeper dive into some of these things, but I would like to know what are some of the things that you guys might be interested in. These are some of the topics that we are hoping to cover, but if you can, here's another Slido for you guys. One more time. What is it that you guys are interested in? Maybe I'll remember a couple of them and try and prepare something tonight to maybe share some nuggets for you all tomorrow. What are some questions, pressing questions that you've been thinking about? What are some ideas or topics that you have in mind that you want to explore? Market outlook, fantastic. I will actually comment. January, every year, we tend to have a webinar that I do with our portfolio management team where we cover how did we do in 2025 and what is our expectation for 2026. So I would highly encourage those who are interested in that topic to sign up for the newsletter, and when we do have that ready to go, we will be sharing that. But these are amazing. Halal 401k, IRA, entry-level Sharia compliant investments. MashaAllah. Lot of different topics that I'm seeing. Halal investors. Is it possible to make alternative financial system? Deep dive into halal versus non-halal investment. Islamic view on crypto. Is crypto halal? I don't know. You might want to find out tomorrow if you want to show up to that. Trusts. So there is actually a session, I believe, on wills and trusts. This is one of the big core topics, so I would highly encourage there is that, because making wealth is one thing, but are you safeguarding it for proper transition to the next generation, right? You don't want to have all this wealth and then your family is left behind trying to piece all the pieces together and having to go through probate, which is a very lengthy and costly process. A lot of that can be avoided by having a proper legacy and trust and things of that nature, which I'm sure the attorney will cover tomorrow. So I wanted to keep it fun and interactive and light. I know it's Friday night. I don't want to give you a heavy meal when you want to go and relax and play and have fun. But tomorrow, come ready, drink your coffee, and inshallah we can dive 10 a.m. sharp with some nuggets for you all. Even if you're a seasoned investor and you're a pro, I'm sure, I guarantee you, there will be one thing that will help you. And if you're brand new to investing, I'm sure there will be some things that you can, inshallah, take away. And we are not experts by any means. I'm just sharing what I encounter, and inshallah, you can benefit. That's it. Any more questions, you can reach out to us, and we'll be here tomorrow as well. So we'll take questions now.
So I'm going to summarize something really quick. So just based on today's conversation, if you don't do anything, do this. Think about your savings account. Think what's happening with it. Is there interest or not? If you have stopped interest payments on it, how can you earn profits on it and how can you contribute? Number one. Number two, do you actually have a financial plan? Have you really thought about what you need, what you want to save or not? And if not, you need to think about that. Number three, if you have kids, there were some very, very important points that were made today, by the way. And I'm speaking from experience because I wish I was in a session like this 25 years ago. Right? I wish I was in a session like this 25 years ago because these points became real for me later. If you have young kids, having a 529 plan is a must-have. Like, I mean, it's a crime not to do that. If you are employed someplace, contributing to your 401k is a must-have. Not doing that, you're leaving money on the table, right? There's some certain set of things that are just super, super important for you to do. So if you're not doing them, you got to do this, right? Similarly, saving for retirements in ways that grows in a halal way is a must-have, right? We didn't have the options, you know, or didn't know about them, but now you have the opportunity to do that. So please take advantage of that. I saw a question come up here that I want to address, which is, what if you're not able to get into the session tomorrow? So unfortunately, we're limited by space. Inshallah, when we move to the new building in a few years and all, you know, that problem will become a little bit smaller, but hopefully we still have that problem at that time because there'll be more people coming. We're gonna try, I am gonna try and see if we can figure out a way to live stream the event so that if you're not able to get into the room, you can still someplace and actually get the benefit from that, because our intention is to spread the goodness as much as possible. So we're gonna try and do that. Can't guarantee it's gonna happen, but we're gonna try and do that.
So I am told that we only have one mic, because when we turn on a second mic, it conflicts with this. So we'll take some questions, and we have the experts here. They can answer them.
I've got a question for the banking. You talked about sharing, but you only talked about profit sharing. You're not talking anything about losses. How does that come into play? Or should we be not concerned about that?
It's a very valid question. The question is there any losses in savings account? The answer is no. You are insured up to the FDIC limits. And the way the Sharia advisors have told us is, let me walk through how it works. Before people leave, I want to hand out the flyers. Can you please hand out the flyers for people to open bank account, the profit link accounts? The way it works is as follows. We have Sharia approved capital from the bank. And I can get into the technicalities. It's about $560 million. I make that money available to do for the masajids and Islamic schools all across the country. And let's say that gives me a return of, I'm making these numbers up, of 8%. And in the CDs, I give out a little bit around 4% today. The first thing I do every month is I take out the money that is in the CD, the profit that I earn, and give it to the depositors in the CDs and the savings account. The second expense that comes out is actually the FDIC insurance. That is a third-party insurance. That expense comes out. So the insurance is not provided by me. The insurance is provided by FDIC as a third party. And our Sharia board has said, since it is not coming out, I'm not insuring it, third party is insuring it, for which you, the depositors, are paying for it. So up to the FDIC, we are covered. Another thing you need to know is we are an extremely well-capitalized bank, meaning that tells you the strength of the bank. It's almost 20%. On average, the capital is only about 10 to 12%. So we are a very safe, secure, extremely run, 100-year-old bank, and that should give you information that it is fairly safe for you to operate. Yes? conventional bank, it's easy for me to say, I'm going to give you less.
It should be because you said, not you, but General Trust Bank said expected, right? And they do murabah or musharaka. Maybe one day, like in the stock market, it goes, you expect 10%, it goes 110%. Should give me even more than the bank. And one day you give me less. It's because it's
No, okay. Hold on. So the question is, why isn't the profit rate tied to the performance of the bank? That is what you're saying.
yeah, so why is not
Sure. Okay. You have to understand, the banks make the money, their upside is limited to what you and I have agreed to. Banks don't make the money because we don't do musharaka. Banks are generally not allowed to do the true musharaka. What you think of it is, let us say you and I, brothers, enter into a business relationship. You put 50%, I do 50%, and everything goes up, we share, everything goes down, we lose equally. But in bank, that's not how it works. The bank's upside is limited to whatever is the profit rate we have agreed to. The business into which we invest in and lend the money, if it goes up very high, who gets the benefit? The borrower. The bank has no upside. So if the business is going well, it is good for the business. I don't have any upside. My upside is only limited to what he and I have agreed to a profit rate. There is no limit in Sharia that says, I have to have this amount. You and I can agree to whatever amount we want. So what do? My cost of running a bank in a Sharia compliant way is higher than a conventional bank. But I work very, very hard to say there is no CBM. Means there is no cost for you being Sharia. In the financing side, believe me, we take a hit.
Assalamu alaikum.
Tens of millions of dollars, I had to give the same rate as a conventional bank side because I wanted to eliminate CBM. So that is, you and I can have the conversations. I would love to tell you. Believe me, brother, in United States, we can have a Sharia compliant bank inside out, left and right, top to bottom. And I will be more than happy to spend that question.
Some of the mortgage, Assalamu alaikum, thank you for doing this session. Some of the mortgage, Islamic financing companies that lend money for mortgage, turn around and sell that mortgage to a Chase or a standard bank. Do you do that?
No, we don't do that. We, first and foremost, we have chosen not to go into home financing because there is already existing players. Where we are today, there is no other Islamic bank. Between the range of $5 to $100 million for construction financing, $20 million, $30 million, there is no Islamic bank in this country, unfortunately, except for us, which is unfortunate, which is a failure of the leadership, including myself. I put myself, failure of the leadership of visioning within our community, and it should not be so. And we don't sell our loans to anybody, we keep it on our books. Yeah.
Now, just a question about, like, if you want to take a loan from a small, like for businesses. Now, we are talking about passive investment all the time, invest in stocks. But if you are a Muslim and you want to start a business in the US, and you face a problem of raising capital, and you want to take a loan that is also a Sharia compliant loan, how can you do that?
Yeah, see, this brother, what's your name, brother? Hussam.
Yes.
Hussam has an idea. He wants to get good for his family, good for his community, and get invest and work very hard to make himself better. Every other Hussam of non-Muslim faith has that opportunity. He doesn't. That is the 70% of the calls that I get. I unfortunately said no to him because the amount of efforts for a bank to do $200,000 loan is same as for me to do a $20 million loan. And the impact of me doing $20 million loan is more than, unfortunately, $200,000. But for him, that $200,000, I'm making these numbers up, is going to change his life, change his family, change everybody around him. And the fact we don't have those institutions today is a failure of our leadership.
The problem, I mean, it's not my problem, but as a Muslim scholar, and we want to build our Muslim business in America, not just buy a home or educate our kids.
So,
we want to
brother,
build business.
yeah, of course. You know how much time a dollar circulates in Muslims? One time. You know there are communities where the dollar circulates 22 times before it leaves. Think about every time it hops from one to the other, it is creating wealth. It is doing good for the society. In American Muslims, with all the wealth, all the brain power, all the need we have, why don't we have financial institutions that allows for him the collective wealth here, can make it available for him to start a business? He is successful, he gives more money to the community, then that circulates in the society. That is what needs to happen.
And I hire Muslim people. I want to hire Muslim people.
Exactly. He want to hire Muslim people. That's the point. Exactly. Okay, I want to ask please ask questions. He's my dear brother. I have huge respect for him. He's, alhamdulillah, done phenomenal, so yeah. Is there more questions on the?
We have one here.
So I have a question. I've been struggling with this for a long time.
Yes.
So I'm retired, and when I talk to my financial advisor, the portfolio mix-up that they make up invariably has fixed income in it. Now, I've worked with these financial advisors for about 27 years. So by now they have understood that ain't just going to happen, right? So they find all sorts of alternative, solutions for me and all. But nothing that has the risk profile that I should have when I've retired. Now, when you come to my age and you start thinking about long-term care, which becomes a big reality, all the solutions that are out there has fixed income as a component. So the question of people of my age, I'm kind of young, but I look a little older than I am. The question really is, how can you get close to the retirement age and still have a portfolio that has a risk profile appropriate for your age?
That's a good question, because this is why I put this slide here, the 60-40, and tomorrow I do a little bit deeper dive on this topic, because historically we have been conditioned to think that a portfolio, a good portfolio, should comprise of 60% equity, 40% fixed income. I am willing to challenge that because the world is now waking up, not just me. This is a chart that I took from Fidelity. Morgan Stanley has a similar, just a different variation. Bank of America just this week came out with an official recommendation for their private wealth clients. BlackRock. So why are they all of a sudden coming up with alternative suggestions? Because the traditional 60-40 is showing some cracks, okay? And there are alternatives that are being highlighted for people to consider. And I am of the opinion that even if you are retired, you can have a good quality portfolio that does not need to include fixed income. Again, I'm not gonna say that that it's for everybody. Of course, it's on a case by case, that's why we say this is not financial advice. We have to evaluate each person's situation. If somebody has a higher risk tolerance versus someone who doesn't, there are different ways that to position the portfolio. But can you achieve your goals without fixed income? I think it is possible. We just have to be creative and think about alternative ways that it can be done. So if your financial advisor has not been able to come up with some of those suggestions, we can definitely do a deeper analysis and come up with some suggested route that can help you. Yes.
So what Brother Asfar talked about is there a Sharia compliant way of alternative for bonds? And why is bonds necessary for the society? Because it provides capital projects, huge capital projects. You want to build a dam, of course you need a bond. Again, remember what I said. Sharia Islamic finance is $6 trillion worldwide. Is there a Sharia equivalent of bond? Of course there is. It's called sukuk. Sukuks are there in almost every country. In GE, about 20 years ago, there was a sukuk issued. So, and why is sukuk good for American society? Why is sukuk? Because per Sharia, you're gonna assume losses in the capital project because we accept those risks. So that means to say, if we all work together to introduce the language of sukuk in a water agency of, let us say, of Seattle, their cost of capital goes down. And there is hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, waiting in the sideline to invest into those sukuk markets from all over the country, all over the world. So the point I'm trying to say is, this is why having Islamic finance is good for the American society, because we accept those risks. And worldwide, there is so much money sitting on the sidelines. They want to come into America. And having us work together, Kevin Parker is a legislator in New York City. He has tried to introduce sukuk concept as part of the state funding 3 times and he has failed. So if you have a legislature in Washington who can introduce the sukuk concept in the bond issuance, he will have access to the fixed income that we all need. So again, that's my point. Thank you.
Yeah, and we actually do have some sukuk. One of the products that our team helped launch, again, I wasn't trying to promote anything, but it is actually because there was a necessity. There was no access to Sharia compliant fixed income, so we worked with S&P and Dow Jones Index actually to create a sukuk product. So the sukuk ETF is available that can be a potential replacement for that fixed income. This is one of the potential ways to navigate that. Yes, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So my question is actually for the bank. Inshallah, I'll ask you questions tomorrow. But I wanted to touch upon one of the topics you were talking about, and it really, obviously for the younger generation, it's very inspiring to the point that you made that we need more financial institutions, especially ones that are run by Muslims. And I wanted to touch upon a point where it sounds like the Stern Salam Bank is backed by a conventional bank. I wanted to clarify that point. And secondly, I wanted to see, like, if we were to create like a new financial institution, it sounds like we need a lot of like some leverage from like conventional banks to back up in capital. So I wanted you to kind of explain how that works. And then finally, like, how structurally separate is the Salam division from the Stearns Bank?
Okay, so Stern Salam Bank is created inside of a regular bank. The Stearns Bank has over, I don't know, $2 billion in capital. The Sharia board looked at the financials of the bank and identified very quickly, within 10 minutes, that over $565 million is riba free. Where did that money came from? That money came from retained earnings, it came from the fees, and it is non-interest bearing checking accounts, that is pledged accounts, bank controlled accounts, all of those are riba free. So that is the capital that we have, first. Number two, we firewalled the whole division, our division, from the main bank. Our general ledger is separate, our products are separate, our people who are working are separate, and we don't cross-sell anything from the Salam Bank to the main bank. We went to the extent, the ESOP plan is one of the most lucrative benefit in Stearns Bank. We said no, we will not participate in ESOP plan, and because we don't want any riba-based riba-based income to come into our pockets. So yes, it is completely firewalled. The products are separate, the people are separate, the general ledger is separate, P&L is separate, and it is firewalled from the main bank. Now, in terms of what I'm trying to highlight, the need is so high in our community for financial products. You have a sandbox of Muslims who are begging for these financial services. Create it, because it is going to be better than what is in the conventional side. You have a sandbox, create your financial institution, create your fintech, and then take it to the main side. And you cannot find a better opportunity than this for young people.
Just to follow up on that, like the final question I have is like, how can we actually create a new Islamic financial institution without having to require so much capital? And where would we get that capital from?
So Dinar Standards is a research firm. They completed a survey just a few weeks ago. And if you go in here, oops, sorry. So Dinar Standards has a book, and they actually have something like 14 industries ready-made that can go out. You and I can have the conversation. I have a soft copy of the Dinar Standard. I have permission to release it to you. So I will show it to you what industries, what fintechs, what opportunities are available for especially young, aggressive, wanting to have their own companies. The opportunities are very high. I'm more than happy to work with you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.
My question for Brother Irshad. So two questions actually. So on one of the slides you had that the deposits are insured for $250,000.
Correct.
But there was an asterisk said it could go up to $1 million as
Correct.
well. So what needs to get done to take it to $1 million? The second question is a bit more philosophical, which is, can Islamic banking be in the US be truly riba-free?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we are plugged into the system which is dollar-based, and dollar is a debt-based, interest-based system in itself. So
Okay.
I understand that we are living here, we have to live within the constraints, but if the dollar itself is a debt-based, interest-based system, then how, and if you're plugged into that system, then how can we truly be riba-free?
Okay. So I'll answer the question. At the very bottom, it says Thrive 2025 North American Muslim Market Report. Just do a Google search, and it will give you all of the industries that are there. So it identifies, and it's amazing program. Now, can you establish a complete bank which is 100% Sharia? The answer is yes. And I'm doing it today. It's not just theoretical thing. Yes, I can do it. So what happens? So the key question that comes up is, when you have excess deposits, and if you put it in a Federal Reserve, then you will get a return. Then that corrupts your money. But there is no requirement that says your excess deposits, if you ever get to the point where you have excess deposits, that you have to give it into Federal Reserve. you can give it to equipment financing. Equipment financing is a asset-based. You can give it to US Bank and ask them to use that money only for equipment financing. So there is a ways we can avoid having to corrupt your banking even within the US economic systems. The second thing is the whole concept of the currency, whether it is based on Sharia or not, whether it is based on debt or not. And look, that is, I won't answer that question because I'm not well versed in it. I will connect it to my Sharia board and they will answer that question. That is too much, that's way above my level of understanding. Yeah. Oh, the way we achieve FDIC insurance above $1 million is by taking your money and dividing. It's called there is a network where you can drop the money and you can put that in other banks, and those banks, you won't get any return on it. For those banks, it is also FDIC insured for the same $250,000. So that's the way we achieve higher than. Actually, we give it up to $125 million. We give you FDIC insurance up to $125 million. Yeah.
All right, well, Jazakallah khair for staying past the time. If you are registered for tomorrow, the workshop starts at 10. If you're not registered, please keep an eye on the MAPS WhatsApp group. If we're able to do a live stream or maybe a Teams meeting, we'll post it there. If we are. It's not guaranteed, but we'll try to do it. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much.